I'm Jeanette Jackson, a nutritional biochemist. I present seminars on stress management, wellness and work-life balance to organisations across Europe, organisations large and small. Well, research from Professor Shelley Taylor from the University of California certainly suggests there is. In 2000, the professor and her team realised that most studies concerning the biophysiology of stress were carried out on men. She readdressed the balance, and using women as subjects, the comparative results showed that men generally tend to offer a more hostile response to stress, whilst women can display a more nurturing side. Now, the results speculate that women have a larger behavioural repertoire to the stress response, and it's all down to a hormone called oxytocin. Oxytocin is a hormone best known for its role in inducing labour, but it also has the ability to influence our ability to bond with others. It's manufactured in the neurosecretory cells of the hypothalamus, located just above the brainstem. Oxytocin hormone is a chemical produced by most mammals in greater or smaller amounts. Women typically produce it in a much larger amount than men. The hormone acts like a neurotransmitter, reducing the stress hormone cortisol and facilitating bonding. Well, Professor Taylor coined the phrase tend and befriend for the female stress response. That is a nurturing of those around them and a desire to reach out and provide and also accept social support with others, as opposed to the fight or flight response, which could sometimes initiate a confrontational response, more predominant in male mammals under threat. Now, Taylor hypothesises that in the prehistoric caveman days, women were typically less aggressive than men, and that in having dependent young, this often negated the option of flight. Well, data on social support and social isolation shows that the fewer social relationships a person has, the shorter his or her life expectancy, and the greater the chance of experiencing infectious disease. Now, this is important as stress can make people withdraw and find isolated solace. In fact, Robert Sapolsky, Professor of Biology and Neurology at Stanford University, suggests that the impact of social relationships on life expectancy appears to be at least as large as variables such as smoking and obesity. He states that for the same illness, people with the fewest social connections have approximately 2.5 times greater chance of dying than those with the most social connections. Oxytocin allows us to generate a calming response and also generate healthy psychological boundaries during stress. Now, this calming effect that oxytocin provides does not occur in men because men produce testosterone, which, when produced in high levels during stress, seems to reduce the effect of oxytocin. The stress response in males can be about creating affiliations when fight or flight is not necessary. In fact, Sapolsky discusses how men tend to create affiliative coalitions with other males to provide strength and support for each other. In our evolution, our survival depended on the ability to mount a successful response to whatever threat came our way. Taylor argues that this does make evolutionary sense for the male to be ready to fight or flee, but not for the female. When challenged, levels of epinephrine or adrenaline in males is double that of females. Men have a consistently higher response to most, but not all challenging situations than women do. But by contrast, women show more of adrenaline high in emotionally demanding situations than men. Cortisol is also a measure of our stress levels, and if it remains high for a long time, it creates feelings of anxiety. And again, there are differences in the way it presents itself in men and women. Cortisol response in short bursts helps in demanding situations by sharpening cognition. However, if cortisol is too high for too long, it harms the body and the brain. Now, in women, the cortisol reaction is stronger and remains longer than it does for men. Oxytocin reduces stress, and a woman can relieve her feelings of anxiety by caring for others. So under stress, she is neurologically primed to tend. And as we learned in the news section, oxytocin is a primary hormone oiling that social networking wheel. It's much more the female pattern when coping with stressful situations. The male pattern of response is different. Male vasopressin is a hormone related to aggression, and the male stress response. The adrenaline response triggers the release of vasopressin. The male hormone testosterone enhances the action of vasopressin and inhibits oxytocin. Vasopressin increases the aggressive response in the male so that under stress, he's neurologically primed for fight or flight. So in today's world, it works like this. Stress reduction in men and women after a day's work. His cortisol level goes up if he is able to be sociable. Her cortisol level goes down by talking and communicating. But he needs a period of quiet to de-stress. She needs a period of talk to de-stress. So conflict can arise. Now, in understanding that difference will help to reduce friction between men and women. Just give him quiet time, 20 minutes when he gets home from work, just to bring his stress levels down, and he will then be ready to talk and help you or her to deal with their stress.